Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of FP&A Mentors Podcast by FP&A Professionals Institute. So today we have with us a slightly different guest. He's not a CFO, but he heads the Middle East operations for Jedox, which is a trusted FP&A tool. Arun is an engineer, but a trusted advisor to CFOs on all matters when it comes to the tech stack for the CFOs. Arun, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Deval, and thank you for inviting me into your podcast.
Happy to have you here today. So, can you take us through your career journey? I mean, you started as an engineer and now you're heading technology solutions for CFOs and the finance field. So, how did that journey happen for you?
Well, I'm a qualified engineer, but I never worked as an engineer, to put it that way. So while I was in engineering, as you know, that we have the campus interview, so I just got a job in technology. And I'm always a technology advocate, and I just jumped into it, into the offer. So it's been 17 years now. I'm in the technology space. You can call it a technology evangelist. And if you look at, I have worn different hats in my career. So I started off as a consultant, and then I was a business intelligence analyst. Then I moved into Dubai, in which that I was being an Hyperion consultant, and then I moved into sales. So there are different challenges that I face in each and every stage, and at the same time, there were quite a good of a learning that I had in each and every role that I played.
Amazing. So, what excited me to bring you on the FP&A Mentors podcast was the technology angle, right? So, you interact with a lot of CFOs and FP&A leaders. So, what are some of the common challenges that CFOs and FP&A leaders are talking about today? And what can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, in general, if you talk about the CFOs, then what are the challenges that they face is there is a term that we live in right now. It's called as VUCA. So if you know what VUCA stands for, so V is volatility, and then U is uncertainty, and C is complexity, and A is ambiguity. So now this is the world that we live in. Now, what this is impacting the business is because their predictability span is becoming shorter and shorter. So no organization at any point or any industries, they are not able to forecast or they're not able to see how their business is going to do from 6 months down the line at any point of time. Now, this is where technology becomes a key role so that it will enable them to be better knowing what's going to come in the future and how they can alter their course so that they can be successful.
Interesting. So, uncertainty is definitely impacting a lot, and I believe finance teams are finding it increasingly difficult to adjust themselves to the forecast. So something like a real-time forecast, is gaining a lot of prominence today. Most CFOs, when they come to you for a technology solution, they think that it's a plug and play. You buy the technology, you plug it, and it magically somehow starts throwing in all the data and analysis. Can you take us through the behind the scenes journey of a real tech implementation or an FP&A tool implementation, and when does that actually start yielding results, or what are some of the difficulties around that?
Yeah, it's a common misconception. I mean, everybody wants a quick win, and everybody wants to have something which is yesterday, not even today. But then that's not the reality how it happens. It's like you're buying a sports car, and you're expecting it to drive without having an oil in it or without having a train driver utilizing it, right? So now that's the challenge which they all need to understand, that it's a journey that they need to do when they're getting into a digital transformation. It's not like you start today and tomorrow morning everything is going to be fine. So the first, if you look into the back-end data hygiene, so let's first look into how in the Office of Finance, how the tech stack looks like. So most of the time, their data is in a fragmented place. So it could be in outdated systems, or it could be in Excel sheets, or it could be even in their ERP. Now, it all does their job being independently. It's in a siloed fashion. But then to make all of them sync together so that you can have a real-time visibility is the challenge that they face. And this is where the companies like Jedox, so what we do is basically that we would help them to integrate with different source systems. And obviously, the clean data is much more required in order for them to make use of it, because all of these things are driven by the data that you're feeding into the system. And second thing, if you look into, is more in terms of process. Most of the time, the processes that the companies do have was established or formed because of inefficient availability or inefficient systems that they were using. So, but then they expect that the same process to follow when they're implementing an FP&A software. Now, that is where things will go wrong. So, if your process is not well thought through, if you wanted to redesign your process, then do it before you start with an FP&A process, because then you're moving your entire chaos. You're basically automating your chaos. So that's the second thing which they look into. Then the third is in terms of the buy-ins that you need to have. So if you wanted to do an FP&A or integrated business plan within an organization, you not only need to talk about the finance people, you need to bring in your operational, you need to bring them in confidence. So they come and they will say, what's in it for me? Why do I need to do it?
Yeah.
Is it just to support you, finance people, to build some reports? Is that why? Or what's in it for me? So when you start to provide that, you know what, it's also going to help an operation team in this fashion. So then they would be much more inclined towards, being part of it, and it will be a common success that is there. So cross departmental collaboration is even more important. And at the end of the day, it's also people, right? So culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if the people, they need to change the way that they think when you're having a system in place, not just how to use the system, but also that thinking, their way of thinking towards how to use the system and how to effectively look into their business is much more important. So these are some of the things which they need to have in the back end before they actually starts to have a system in place which is beneficial for them.
Interesting. So that kind of gives us a quick framework that, okay, it's all starts with data as the foundation, and then the process, and then the people and the adoption, and then the buy-in from all of the cross-functional teams. Yes, at the end of the day, if the teams are not coming together to implement the right technology or the outcome from the technology, then I don't think so it'll actually yield the results that the CFO and the senior leaders in the businesses are looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So you mentioned that AI adoption has been one of the challenges for finance leaders today. So can you share some tips and strategies on how can CFOs or the Office of Finance look at AI adoption, and where do they need to start with?
Yeah, if you look into the AI adoption, it's definitely on top of the mind of any CFOs that I speak with. They always wants to see, hey, how AI is going to help. So the first thing which we need to think through is that without having a right use case, then starting an AI journey for the sake of starting it is not going to yield any result.
Right.
You first needs to identify that what are the pain areas that I would like to address in terms of using AI. It could be a prediction, it could be some kind of, let's say, cash flow forecasting that you wanted to increase, or sales forecasting that you wanted to increase. Now, that's the use case. Now, once you have designed that these are the use cases that you're going to use AI for, then we look into the data, because AI thrive on the data. The more the data that you put into the system, put into the AI engine, and more better the predictability is going to be. And this is why we always recommend minimum 3 years of information, and clean information, your historical information, is required for you to start even the AI journey for a particular use case that you think. Now, once you start doing it, then the second thing is expecting results in day one. So you should always know that AI is a journey. So there are different steps that you take in order to be completely reliant on the system. You will get there, but not at day one. So you start with automation. Then second thing is you start to look into the outliers that the AI engine is throwing into you and see how far it is possible. Is it really giving you the results? Is it really closer? If it is not, then that means that you need to feed it with more information or more drivers, which would impact your forecast. So it could be your internal drivers, or sometimes we have seen customers using even the external drivers into feeding it into the AI engine, so that they are able to get these desired results that is there. Now, these are the things which you need to look into from an adoption perspective. Then finally, now the systems have become so easier, you don't need to be a data scientist. We are not expecting CFOs to write Python programs or R programs, right? So nobody taught us how to use ChatGPT. Nobody taught us how to use Gemini, because it's so simple that it was able to do. So similarly, the systems, the business applications like Jedox have come to a stage where you don't need to be trained data scientists in order for you to use AI. You can start embedding it and you can start using it right away. It's just that you need to have the right amount of data, right drivers feed into the system.
Amazing. So I think the two important points that you stressed upon, one was the underlying data. Data needs to be clean for any AI implementation or a project to yield results. And the second was that it's a journey. Most CFOs think that, okay, AI is a tool, get AI, let's get this done, or plug it in and then some magic will happen. So that's not the case, right? It needs to be continuously trained. And I think it's a journey that the organization and the finance team will go through, and then the AI will start yielding results. So I mean, you have continuing to talk about AI adoption. So can you share some success stories about how AI has been successfully implemented in the finance, and some stories around the organizations who are using it in a better way?
Yeah, there are quite a lot of adoptions that we have seen across the world, especially from across different industries about AI. But to highlight, I would like to share about Mitsui Chemicals. It's a chemical company which is part of it's a Mitsui Chemicals Europe is the division which actually went with an AI journey with us, and it is part of the Mitsui Global. We're headquartered in Japan. So they produce chemicals, sell chemicals, and market them for which is to it could be food and beverages. Their chemicals are used. It's used in automotive, and it's also used in healthcare. Now, their challenge and their use case they came up with, they were using Excel, and like most organization predominantly, they were using Excel to basically forecast their sales. Now, why sales forecasting is important for them is because they are also a producer. So there is a lead time that it takes for them to produce a certain amount of chemical. Considering the different industry that they cater with, if they could have a predictable forecast, then they would be able to, let's say, a rolling forecast of 12 months in a predictable fashion, then they can start producing it so they can reduce the lead time and they can, deliver their goods to their customers sooner, faster. So they came up with the use case of improving the sales forecasting. Then we started with them, and we started with their controller team who's responsible for the performance of it. So we identified the different SKUs that they are using it. We went till the SKU level, and we started to enter the information of their forecast, their plans, the sales plans that they're having, even the sub plans that they're having with across different products into the system. And we were trying to see how prediction came in. Initially, they also had only 1 year of data, which we were able to replicate. So when we did that, our results that we derived was around 70%, and we started to have more and more information fed into the system. Then finally, we were able to achieve 95% of the data. Now, 95% accuracy is one thing, but they were able to achieve that 95% accuracy by putting in certain information which they would typically won't even consider if they're doing it manually. So the more detail that they were able to feed into the AI engine resulted them in creating a 95% accuracy.
Interesting. So you know, this is a very practical use case of how covering the journey of AI in enhancing your forecast accuracy, or even decision making for that matter. And like most of the organizations might still be on that edge, that they're still thinking about how to adopt AI or when to adopt AI. But I think this is a great example, where they have successfully implemented AI to enhance the forecast accuracy. There's a lot of talk about integrated business planning, right? And integrated business planning, if implemented well, successfully enhances the utility and the weight of FP&A in a certain organization as well. So can you share some success stories around how IBP has been implemented well in any of your clients or any instances that you have come across?
Yeah, sure. So let's look at why an IBP and how is it going to help. So what is the main focus of a CFO? So he wants to optimize cost, and at the same time that he wants to make the entire organization performant, getting more out of the organization. Now, how can they do it? So they would be able to do that if there is a sync between all the departments and you know exactly what you are producing and with the amount of resource that you're having. So in order for that to do it is where IBP comes in. So one such example I can pick it up is Papa John's Pizza. We all love pizzas. And Papa John's is something which is always in our mind when we wanted to have a pizza. So Papa John's Pizza in Middle East. So it's called as PJP Investments. So they own the licensing of Papa John's Pizza across UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. So they were using Excel again. So they were using Excel for them to do their their yearly planning, budgeting, and forecasting. And they do not just the financial planning; they do the entire HR planning, operations planning, everything done using Excel. Now, what we did, we sat with the CFO because that they are in the growth phase. So they started off with 40 stores and then they reached to 120 stores in a shorter period of time. So now you see the scalability of the business, right? So when a business is scaling at this pace, then Excel then became, too difficult to use. And he mentioned that he initially in the first meeting, he tried to open the Excel sheet which he does the forecasting or the planning for, and it did not even open. So I told him, okay, now you know the use case. What do we need to do to basically to fix this one? So we onboarded him, and then we started to build an planning along with him, using Jedox, in which that it not only looks into the financial drivers, it also looks into the operational drivers such as their HR, their operation team, their sales team. So it gave them the complete picture at one point, at a given point of time, how their entire organization is. Now, they also had plans to expand drastically. So if they wanted to have a new store, then if they wanted to simply, plan exactly because they do quite a different kind of a model. So you can see Papa John's in food courts, you can see them in a petrol stations, or it can be a standalone a place, a branch where you can go and buy your pizza. So if they wanted to have one more petrol station that they wanted to have for Papa John's store, then they can simply replicate the same business. They know exactly how many manpower that they need, and based on the location, they know how much pizzas, how much dough they need to produce. So all of those things we were able to provide in one go. So everyone were able to accurately forecast or accurately look into how their businesses and where they are currently.
That's an amazing story. I mean, from a classic nightmare, finance professional's nightmare of the Excel sheet not opening, to get the right kind of data, to being able to manage more than 100 plus stores efficiently with all the data, not only financial data but all the operational and HR data integrated as well. So that's an amazing story, and truly an example of what integrated business planning can add as a value in the finance function. So thanks for that story. As a customary in our podcast, we try and conclude it with a rapid fire round. So I'm going to fire some questions at you, and rapid fire need not be like a one word answer. You can take about 15 to 30 seconds to answer that, and so that our audience can understand some of your preferences as well. So great. So which is your favorite book and why?
My favorite book, especially from finance perspective, I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So the main reason why I like that book is it talks about the mindset. So it's more in terms of if you have read the book, you know the story about the rich dad and then the poor dad. The rich dad is his friend's dad, and then the poor dad is his father. Yeah. So it's more in terms of to learn that there are things that other people do quite differently, and than how we have been told or how we have been taught to do things. So that's the main thing. It's about the mindset, which is very important, especially even in your day-to-day business, that you have been used to doing things, and a slight change in that might actually accelerate your entire business or entire career in.
So true, and that's a great book, and I can now see where the entrepreneurial inspiration comes from. So how do you stay updated with the finance trends? You being a technology guy.
Well, yes. So as a regional director, one of the things I really like in my job is that I meet with CFOs day in and day out. And what this also gives me a chance is to know about how their business is doing, right, and what's the new things that is coming into in their business. So this keeps me updated on all the trends that is happening in the Office of Finance or in business in general.
So one myth about FP&A that you would like to bust?
Myth about an FP&A. Well, they all feel that FP&A is more in terms of doing their budgets and building the reports. So that's the job of an FP&A. I would say that's not true, and FP&A is much more than that. If I can say, they are the one with the crystal ball, because they are the one who's going to tell the business in advance how their business is going to be. Now, I always make a joke, especially the difference between an accountant and an FP&A professional. If an accountant gets creative, and he goes to jail, and if an FP&A gets creative, he gets a promotion. So
That's a good one.
it's an FP&A guy is more creative because he's going to see what are the different alternate realities that his business is going to have, and he's going to make the organization informed that these are the ones coming your way, and if you wanted to change your course, then this is the right time to do.
It's amazing. So be creative while keeping an eye on the performance of the business.
Yes.
Amazing. So one habit that has helped you succeed in your career and that you have religiously followed every time.
Adaptability, I would say. I'm always adaptable to the new challenges and at the same time to new technologies, or that's something
Amazing.
something-
What's the best career advice that you've ever received?
Well, it's actually a sentence from Mike Tyson, right? So everybody has a plan until someone punches you on the face. So it's so true because be it business or personal, resilience is much more required for you in order for you to progress. So that's the career advice I would say.
Amazing. What is the most underrated finance skill according to you?
Underrated finance skills. It could be the storytelling, I would say. The storytelling is even more important because one thing is to build your reports and have the numbers in place. And the other thing is more in terms of telling the story behind those numbers. A finance person is successful if he can communicate effectively his finance numbers to non-finance people.
Right. In the simplest language possible.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. So the final question, one personal side of Arun that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, as a sales guy, I'm an extrovert. I like to meet people, and I'm very openly available. If anybody wants to speak, then I'm happy to chat with them. I'm always curious to know what's going on in their life, what's keeping them awake. And I'm a tennis player as well.
Oh, wow.
From a personal perspective. So if you wanted to play tennis together, then I'm available.
It's amazing, man. Great. Thank you so much, Arun. There were straight out of the heart answers. And what one thing we all can learn from your journey is that you have to be adaptable. And technology is taking over, and start learning technology if you still haven't thought about it. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. It was refreshing to bring a technology angle, and this is the first ever time I'm not interviewing a CFO in the FP&A Mentors podcast. So it was very refreshing to have you in our episode. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deval. Thank you for
Great. Thank you, Arun, for coming.